by FridayNightGlory.com. This is Malik Wright. I'm here with Kenny Matthews, Lauren Moore, Mark, Terrence, Matt. How you guys doing?
Doing great. What's going on? What's going on?
We're doing fine.
I see Terrence and Mark. One of y'all had a better Saturday. I see.
I had a great Friday, but Saturday I was in awe, man.
Guns up, baby. Guns up for Randy Edwards.
Guns up for Randy Edwards.
It's a tough one now, but just remember the Buckeyes winning just beat. Remember we was down, we're gonna get Wisconsin by 50 again.
That game was painful to watch. It was so messy, all of it.
Oh, you're right back. But we had a great weekend of high school sports, of course. We had you guys covered from Houston to Dallas, South Lake, Denton, all over the place. So let's get started with the offensive MVP this week. North Forney quarterback, Colby Suits. He went 19 for 29, 379 yards, 6 touchdowns through the air, 26 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown in their win over Lake Dallas. Our defensive MVP is out the Houston, Austin area from Los Fresnos. We will find you if you're out here. Isaiah Muniz. Sorry for mispronouncing his name, but he caught 4 interceptions in their win. They play Lake Travis next week.
Big one. That's big one. Kobe Suits. That's Friday Night Glory's own. We interviewed him before the season started. He's going to Louisiana Monroe. Good guy. Good guy.
Good guy. Put a pounding on Lake Dallas.
Yeah, I got a chance to talk with him.
Yep, Randy Jackson's got them rolling, doesn't he, Matt?
Yeah, Coach Jackson, he's got everybody to buy into what he's been selling them, and that's to be the best every day.
Isn't that the first time they've been in the playoffs for like a long time?
Yeah, he's got the whole community, saying Goonville and Goon Squad. They got a goon deal going on.
The Jackrabbits.
Wanted Jackrabbits. They don't jack around.
Yeah, they're the North Forney Falcons.
Oh, North Forney Falcons.
They're the Falcons? Okay, the Falcons. That's right. I guess Forney's the Jackrabbits. That's right.
The Falcons swoop down and pick up the Jackrabbits off the ground.
But Kobe Suits, he's a pretty good quarterback. University of Louisiana Monroe's getting a bunch of good players from Dallas, including him.
Yes, they are.
And they're getting Keyshawn Johnson from Duncanville, and they're also getting Bacardi Middleton from Grand Prairie High School. So they're all going to be going out together.
Speaking of your Panthers in Duncanville.
Hey,
Let's get it started. Let's start. We have
Action
right
packed.
into it. Let's start with number 1 in the state. They were tested. They were challenged. They were down early against South Grand Prairie High School, but they pulled it off 28-14. A win is a win, as we heard the locker room speech from Coach. I was at AT&T Stadium with Riley and Matt. I'm going to let those two talk about it.
Yeah, basically, we went up to Coach Gamble after the game. We told him congratulations, and we just like to have a moment to talk with him. And he said, sure. He said, follow us to the locker room, and you guys can come in here. And we just hung out in the locker room and interviewed everybody. It was probably one of the best atmospheres I've been in. Felt like a college locker room, kind of.
Yeah.
Talk about the game, you guys.
Yeah, I'll go. It was a great game, like I said, it was a lot closer than people expected. South really gave them all they could handle. It was really close in the first half. They pulled away, and what Allen did is they just forced Paco Brown from South Grand Prairie to throw the ball and make tough decisions. He ended up throwing two or three interceptions that game that really cost them.
Yeah, and SGP actually forced 2 fumbles in the game. They didn't recover either of them. They were up 14-0, 14-7, 7-7, and they threw a touchdown at the end of the half. Kid looked like he caught it on replay, but they caught it off. So
exactly. It's good that you brought that up because they said that the quarterback was out of bounds. Whenever I've heard from a lot of my sources, because I live in Grand Prairie, they say they were watching film at their high school and neither player were out of bounds. They were both inbounds and it was a legit touchdown, and that they were upset and they thought they got the raw end of that.
Yeah, it's just a weird moment because we're at Cowboy Stadium and you don't see the replay. So Allen at a point of the game, Allen should have been losing 21-0, in my opinion. So South could beat them, but congrats to South on a great season. Let's move to the
should be thankful that South tested them like that because Martin's a lot better than South.
I was about to say
Yeah.
they poked the bear, didn't they?
Gonna see
Oh, yeah.
and see if they can respond next week. I feel like Allen looked vulnerable for the first time this year against South Grand Prairie. I think Martin.
You know,
Yeah.
with any championship run, you got to win one of those games anywhere where you don't play well. It's just inevitable. You can't play good for 6 straight games in the playoffs anyway. So those are the kind of one of those games where you win. Coach can come back and look at that film on Saturday and say, "Yeah, we're very fortunate when I bet you they paid attention to those films come on Monday, didn't they?"
Yeah,
And-
can you? I was gonna say, Malik, can you guys all agree with me on something real quick that you think that Martin's just as good of chance of winning that Allen does right now?
Sure.
I'm sticking with Allen. The fact that they had an average game, they didn't play absolutely horrible. They played a good team. It was good football, and 28-14, they got the win. At the end of the day, them not putting up the numbers. I'm gonna keep rolling with Allen, but they're definitely beatable. I definitely saw parts of their game that could get exploited, but as Grant Tisdale, Theo Weiss made one of the top catches I've seen this year, going over the south corner and just establishing dominance. Really,
I got that as well. It got a lot of attention on Twitter. So shout out to Theo for making that catch.
okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
Theo
Yeah,
Weiss, he will tell you how good he is, but he will back it up when he's on that field.
Oh yeah. Be scared of Allen. Beware of Allen.
He will back up.
Football.
And
Now
the thing about it, he's just a junior. He's back next year with Tisdale. His story hadn't finished yet.
Oh yeah. He's just writing it.
Still getting taller. He's listed at 6'2" on the rosters, and I know for a fact he's already 6'5". I know it. He's been growing this year.
Yeah, I had to look up at him, and I'm 6'3". I know he's taller than 6'2".
But on the roster, it says he's 6'2". It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
saw it.
6'5".
Well, that's
Hey, I
what
will say one. Hey, I will say one more
like
thing. I will say one more thing about Allen, the SGP game. I really feel like it was the direct result of coaching. Allen did a really good job of making adjustments in the second half, and it feels like it's been the story every year when SGP gets in the playoffs. It's coaching in the second half. They go passive, and what I like to call prevent offense, prevents them from winning. They come out trying to run the ball, run some clock off, and they end up fighting themselves in the butt, losing a game.
All right, yeah, and now let's move on to one of the best finishes of the weekend. Duncanville took on Trinity Saturday morning at AT&T Stadium. Game came down to a last-second field goal, which Duncanville missed. They lost 28-7. Matt, you were there.
Yep, it was pretty crazy. Me and Roger and Macy were there, but I've covered Duncanville all year. I got Trinity a couple times, so I was right there in it, and I thought Duncanville was going to win, but at the very end, there's key plays. They used all their timeouts as Trinity down their throats on that last drive. They used all their timeouts, so they were left with like a minute left. Okay. Duncanville gets the ball. What do they do in the first 2 plays? They run. I'm not going to say this is bad play calling, but I will say it right now. I mean, it was bad play calling. That's what it was. I feel guilty for saying it because I love Duncanville.
No, don't feel guilty.
It was bad play calling, and it shouldn't have been called. You should never run the ball when you have 1 minute left back to back because they got stuffed back to back. So then they had to throw it, and then they got it. And then the second play they tried to run with like 19 seconds, 20 seconds left was like a deep pass over the middle to J.J. Jackson, and he drops it. He never drops it during the season. He's never dropped it. I just think the moment
Feel bad for that kid.
I know. I think the moment got too big. I think they got caught up in the emotions of the crowd because Trinity's crowd. You guys know how Trinity's crowd is, and Trinity finished and they took care of business. Josh Delgado missed a field goal that he normally makes. I mean, these are just things that you've seen them do all year until the biggest moment. It just didn't happen. And it's sad for me to say it, but that's just the way it went.
Hey, I said that early in the season. Remember that? Come down.
That's what I was going to say. Give props
I
to
stick by
Terrence.
mine. I'm going to stick by it.
Yeah.
Terrence has been on that Samples bandwagon all year, but he needs to win in the playoffs. And it's the first person I thought of when I saw that score.
I mean, pulling for him to win.
It kind of reminds you of the South Lake and Trinity game, how it was 1 point, and then Trinity, they've proven that as long as they can keep on hitting you all game and make you tired, they'll win the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to
I was Trinity's passing game, man.
They caught Duncanville off guard a couple times in the first half. Duncanville thought they were going to just start running it. They did play action on one of the second plays of the game and got about 25 yards. And then they did a misdirection play where the quarterback kept the ball and took off with it on the opposite side while nobody was there. Then they also did a screen pass where the linemen all pulled out and Duncanville almost sacked the quarterback. And of course, over there you got 5 linemen running up the sideline, and Courage Cons is getting like 50 yards off a screen pass.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, and shout out to Euless Trinity. I saw experts in Texas high school football who said they were going to lose by 4 scores against Duncanville. So that's Euless Trinity. It's longevity.
That's why they play the game, Malik. You still got to play the game.
You got to play the game.
They're not the same Trinity that we're used to, but they're a different version of themselves. They're a different, more fast version.
I got a question for you guys that were there. I said it seemed like to me that, with Duncanville being such a shutdown defense, when I saw that, Trinity had 21 points in the third quarter, that was a shocker to me because I didn't think Trinity could score 21 points in the game. When you're up 21 for, at that point in the game, I said, well, heck, Trinity can do their thing, which is play smash mouth football.
It was also about special teams because they had a really long kickoff return that got them down to like the 10-yard line. And their kicking game was what it was. I mean, they would pin Duncanville back, and Duncanville would have a tough time because Trinity's defense just kept hitting them. They have a lot of strong people that play for Trinity, and I don't think people understand. Yeah, I don't think people understand. They will hit you in the mouth until the referee blows the whistle, and they will stay on top of you and make sure you're on the ground until the referee tells you to get up.
That's that Haka stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's get I'm going to let Matt and Riley do their pick 6 together right now. Coppell versus Rockwall, Cedar Ridge.
Round Rock is, I believe it is.
Round Rock. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be there on Saturday, so we're going to see what happens. But I'm going with Coppell because that's all I know. I've called Coppell's number every day, and they've never let me down in any of my picks. And Coppell has always been a clutch go-to pick for me, so shout out to Coppell. Riley.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Coppell for the same exact reason. Every time I've picked them this year, they haven't let me down. They've had a pretty impressive season.
Okay, Midlothian Heritage versus Kennedale.
This is gonna hurt Kennedale's feelings, but I'm going Midlothian Heritage. Midlothian Heritage has too many weapons, and all Kennedale likes to do is run the ball well. Midlothian Heritage is every bit as ready for a state title this year, and I've interviewed them last year. They got Carrion Fields and so many young players. Jay Wilson.
Ledbetter.
They are so deep with talent. It's unreal over there.
Okay. Waxahachie.
I still need to do my pick.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kennedale. They've had a pretty impressive season. They have one loss, and it's West Orange Star, which is top 2 team in the state in 4A. I'm going to go with Kennedale. I think they'll come out on top of the game.
Okay, Allen versus Martin.
I'm going to go with Martin for the upset.
Look at him. Let's write it down. We got to
write this down.
Out on a limb then. Step on out.
Lord,
Brought to you by Dr. Pepper.
Hey, Martin scrimmaged Allen in the beginning of the year and gave him every bit they could handle.
It is written, baby. We got it. It's here on the table.
Well, Allen probably didn't show everything.
I know y'all saw that 2 and 4 on his paper.
That's 2 and 4.
I don't think Allen did it.
We'll get to that later.
Oh boy.
2 and 4.
Okay, Riley.
I'm gonna go with Martin as well. Allen looks vulnerable to me, and Martin's had a pretty season. Martin's one of those teams you gotta watch them in person to know really see how good they are, and I think they're gonna beat Allen.
I've seen Martin in person, and I've seen Allen in person, and Martin's got just as much talent as Allen does.
It'll be a good game. I think it'll come down to the wire. I think Martin will come out on top.
How about that 100-yard fumble return the other day from them?
Right.
I think it comes down to coaching again. Once again, guys, beware. Again, I mind you, beware of that coaching. They may have all the talent in the world, but I seen the talent there too. But man, Allen's a powerhouse. just like Southlake coming back.
That fumble return is just a case of knowing the situation and not stopping till the whistle is blown. And
Absolutely.
that's the difference of coaching right there. Like Terrence said, you got to coach your kids to play to the whistle, and if they don't, that's where they end up. I mean, he could have easily stopped, but continuation and playing to the end of the play, that was a big momentum changer in that game.
Absolutely. Well, it's a 14-point swing.
Exactly.
I mean, you're going in for 7 and you don't get it, and then you give up 7 on the other end. I mean, it's hard to make up those.
It's hard to make it up. That's right.
Okay, Arlington High versus Southlake.
I'm going to go with Southlake. Southlake's done nothing but impress me in the playoffs. They knocked off a team that I've covered every day for the past year, DeSoto. And Southlake can beat them. You tip your hat to them and you say, go ahead, Southlake, keep doing what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
Riley's out. Is he out?
Riley, come back and join us, buddy.
That Cajun food was smelling in the back.
Get some of those mud bugs when you get back.
He had to go eat some of them dirt.
I'm gonna do your last game, Matt. Ready?
Yep.
All right, Waco Midway versus Mansfield. Waco Midway versus Mansfield.
Well, I've seen both teams a lot. I've seen Midway twice, and I consider that a lot. I've seen Mansfield twice as well, and I know what Mansfield has. They got a defense, and that's going to give Midway a tough time because Midway showed flashes against Grand Prairie when they got hit in the mouth. It looked a little different than what the Midway I saw. Certain spots, Mansfield's got the players that are really good for Midway. They'll take them out of the game. They have defenders that can literally shut down players, and I'm picking Mansfield for that reason.
Okay. Well, we will see you at Stevensville versus undefeated Argyle, and Coppell versus Round Rock. Cedar Ridge this weekend. Lauren, do you have your question of the day for Matt?
Yes. Well, 1 second. Which game was the biggest surprise in area round playoffs for you?
I mean, the obvious is Trinity because I'm going to be honest. I had Duncanville winning that game, and whoever doesn't say they had Duncanville winning that game, I'd like to hear it. Trinity upset a lot of people and messed up a lot of people's brackets for the state title, and that's okay. That's
we
what
go
I'm
back
enjoying
in
the
the
most.
Friday Night Glory vault. I think I picked Trinity. If we go back in the vault.
I think I did too.
Oh, really? Wow.
Sean, but great games for both teams. But let's move on. We had the Houston, Texas area covered for you guys this weekend. Lauren Moore was at Nanville High School versus Netherland. Manville won the game.
They're dropping like flies.
Six. Lauren, how was it? How was the atmosphere?
Well, I sat on the Manville side of a few games in the past. I got friends and family down there, and wow, those are some loud parents, and they're hard to compete with. Cedar Park last year at Kyle Field could not keep up with that loudness. But Nederland, shout out to them. They were loud that whole game. The P&G parents were even starting to show up. There was a sea of purple over there still cheering for their rival, and I thought that was pretty cool. Manville's defense actually is what surprised me the most in that game. They're usually a very lockdown defense, stop passing, stop rushing. Well, they allowed about 74 yards rushing and right at 300 passing. And for a team that's stacked with Penn State commit Trent Gordon and A&M commit Brian Johnson on their team, it's just hard to believe that they were able to allow over 300 yards. And those two aren't even the real stars of that defense. And so that really surprised me about their defense. But offensively, Jalen Preston, A&M commit, one of my favorite receivers in the state to watch. 2 fumbles. Jalen does not fumble often. And whenever he had that second fumble, you could tell the way he was walking around the sideline, that boy was frazzled and didn't know what to do. Well, next time he got the ball in his hands, it was a punt. And he ran that punt back for a touchdown. And then he went on and scored. So it was one of those things that the offense struggled a little bit, which is hard to say whenever you score 51 points. But they're still Manville offense, but a little bit shooken up. Deneric Prince, another A&M commit on that team, he also had a bigger game than Garius Johnson, I believe. Just several nice runs, a very long touchdown run, and he had something hanging from the back of his pants. Looked like a belt, but also kind of looked like a parachute. The whole press box. Did he bring a parachute out? What is he doing? What is he doing? It was really fun.
Old school Deion Sanders style.
Well, let's get. We'll see you next week at Lone
Question
Star.
for Lauren. A quick question. I just got to. The main thing with Manville, it is it every year. How did their defense and offensive line look? That's what I want to know, because I know all that skill position stuff. They're airtight.
Yes.
It's those guys in the trenches.
Yes. Well, I think A&M's defensive line this year is a lot better than last year's, and that's very hard for me to say. I mentioned him last week, Kobe Foster. He now plays at Central Arkansas. He was nicknamed the Black Hole, and that boy did not ever let anyone go by him. And this year's D-line looks almost better, and that's very surprising to me. Offensive line, there's some starters that I like. Lance Jones stands out whenever I think about them. He's a very talented lineman. Really, I think O-line, they're finally starting to get more recognition, and those guys, by what I remember, they've gotten bigger too. So that always helps a line.
So you think that they can get that tough 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, or 4th and 1 when you need it? Because that's, to me, is what you got to do. The hoist that trophy eventually.
Yes.
Well, that's good.
Coach Martin went
Lauren?
for it.
I'll take your word for it then. You have already proven enough to me already anyway.
Look for those boys up at AT&T in a few weeks.
That's big. That's big. That's big. Okay.
That is big league. That is big league.
I'm going to write that one down.
All right.
Yeah, I said we need to write that one down.
I got to let them boys know that so they can't disappoint me now.
I know the Houston area would love to see Manville up here in Jerry's World.
Oh, I'd love it too.
Yeah. So would I. I agree.
For sure. Well, you'll be at Waxahachie versus Lone Star next weekend. This weekend coming up. Let's get straight to your pick 6. We're gonna go with Allen versus Martin.
I'm gonna say Allen. They're Allen. They got the duo of Tisdale and Theo Wees. You can't disrupt them.
TNT.
Midlothian Heritage versus Kennedale.
I can't decide on this one, so I'm going to go with Kennedale purely because I had a dance competition one there and they had a nice football field.
Okay.
That's cool. That's cool.
That was my way of deciding.
Hey, whatever works for you, man. That's cool. All right,
Waxahachie versus Lone Star.
I cannot figure this one out. I've gone back and forth all day. I think I'll pick Waxahachie, and then I go, well, Lone Star, they got Kirby Bennett, and he's pretty hard to stop. I'm going to go with Lone Star, but that's only if Waxahachie's defense disappoints, and I don't think they'll disappoint.
Well, Lauren, I get to work that game with you, so it'll be the first time. So looking forward to it.
Me too.
That's my hometown, y'all. Y'all know I'm from everywhere, but I can really prove this one. I was born in Ellis County in '76.
Experience has been all over the area.
Coppell versus Round Rock Cedar Hill, Round Rock Cedar Ridge. That is a tongue twister for me.
I'm gonna say Coppell. It's really hard to pick against them in any way.
Okay, Mansfield versus Waco Midway.
All right, I'm gonna say Mansfield on this one. Mansfield football lost to Marcus football, and I won't let anyone forget this. So I'm hoping Manville goes very far in state, just so I can prove that those Marcus boys had the most talent and deserve to be in playoffs.
Let y'all know now, Waco Midway. They said Friday Night Glory was the first people to start covering them, and they were looking pretty fast, pretty good. Yeah, watch out. Arlington, South Lake.
Southlake. Southlake is another one. They played Marcus, and Marcus looked pretty good against them. And Southlake, I think part of it, the blonde hair, like has been said, those boys, they don't like to lose,
Right.
and I don't think they're going to.
Mystique.
Okay. Well, and then like I said, we see you and Kenny at Waxahachie versus Lone Star. Do you have a team that has surprised you throughout this playoff run?
I'm gonna say Southlake because they've done things in a way that are Southlake-esque, but then again, they've also not completely shown up in ways that I would expect them to. Yeah.
Okay. We'll see you there. Now let's move on to Terrence and Mark, who are both at San Angelo Central versus Martin. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Hey man, we're making it.
Doing great as well.
Hey man, well you guys got to see Mansfield beat San Angelo Central 55-37. Look, game was close early, as I saw by looking at you guys' tweets. Got a little bit out of hand. Talk about it.
Well, guess I go in it. Okay. Well, yeah, it did start out slow, kind of boring. Almost put me to sleep there. I'm like, San Angelo, 4 hours away. It was like a field goal game at first, but it turned up pretty quickly. Mansfield, they do what they do. Cameron Jones had a 94-yard kickoff return. I believe that broke the game open. Big final, 55-37, because once Mansfield got going, what actually happened, Chapman, the actual featured back for Mansfield, got injured a little bit, so he was out of the game, so they put in Jaquillis Coleman. Now, he had a big night, 7 for 188, 3 TDs, runs of 47 yards, 58 yards. I mean, he was really, really running. Jackson Gleason is their main guy over there. He was shut out the first half with no catches. He ended up with 3 catches for 67 yards, 2 TDs, 1 big 50-yard pass. Now, San Angelo has a quarterback, Maverick McIver. He accounted for like 470 yards of total offense. It just seems like the mistakes was there, but every time San Angelo tried to, come close, something happened because they had some mishaps as well. Cameron Jones let a kickoff go right past him. San Angelo picked it up, and they was in scoring range. I mean, they put up a pretty good fight, but at the end, Mansfield kind of turned it on. They didn't let loose.
Yeah, I agree. I think it did start off kind of slow. I think both teams were just kind of feeling each other out. We went into the game knowing what Mansfield does, which is run the rock, pound it, and then they hit you over top for big plays with Jackson Gleason. But I think San Angelo just was unsure kind of what they wanted to do at first. But once Maverick McIver and Jesse Scott, and shout out to Henry Teeter. I mean, he had almost 200 yards and about 3 TDs on the night. I was thoroughly impressed by the Bobcats, but I just think that eventually Mansfield made some adjustments in the second half, and they flexed their muscles. I mean, that big offensive line. I mean, it's one of the biggest offensive lines in the Metroplex, if not the state. I mean, and those guys play together well. Just like we talked about Trinity earlier, they play to the end of the whistle. They're physical, and they will grind you, like a meat grinder. So, I mean, shout out to those boys. I've been covering them the last couple of weeks on that O-line and been trying to show them some love because a lot of times they don't get the love. I mean, everybody knows the Cameron Joneses and Jackson's Gleasons, but, nothing starts on both sides of the line. You can't win without a good offensive line and good defensive line. But, I was thoroughly impressed by San Angelo Central. It was a 17-13 game at the halftime. Everybody was like looking at each other like, whoa, this is shocking because like Terrence said, when Cam Jones took the 94-yarder back, I mean, we all thought, okay, well, here it is. They were about to open it up. But then they had the mishap on the 6-yard line with the kick return. And then, Maverick McIver also led the team in rushing. I think the Achilles heel for the Bobcats was they didn't establish a running game with Cobbs. So, they were one-dimensional. Anytime your quarterback, unless we're talking about Cam Newton or Michael Vick, where it's a designed run, and they did run some quarterback draw stuff because he was mobile enough. But anytime your quarterback leads you in rushing with 55 yards, and your passing game, is setting the tone, then there's a little bit of a problem, especially when we get deep into the playoffs. You got to establish, balance, and that's what Mansfield did. I mean, Hartsfield only had 2 touchdowns to Gleason, but I mean, like Terrence said, Jaquilis Coleman broke it open. I mean, as soon as they got the ball back in the second half, his first touch was out of the gate, and then the next time he got the ball, he was out of the gate. So, shout out to those boys in Mansfield. They definitely been hitting that dummy in that sled in the summertime. So,
I was going to ask you guys.
And mind you, San Angelo had their dummies on the field for warm-ups, Kenny. Like, I've never seen this before. They come out with the tackling dummies. They doing tackling drills. I'm like, man, these guys are really going to turn it on. But, it didn't work for me.
Hey, that's straight West Texas football for you, though, man.
I was going to ask you guys, how was the crowd for them? I mean,
the
they're
crowd,
not afraid to trash.
They're not afraid to.
Yeah.
They had about 4 or 5 bus loads. I mean, I'm talking about charter buses, not big.
They started fouling out, Kenny. I was wondering, like, how many of these people drove? Because they started fouling.
Yeah.
That high school football's gold out there, man. That's their Super Bowl, man.
But, I mean,
angry because Dallas Morning News, everybody picked Mansfield across the board, and I seen a tweet, angry cats. They threw that tweet up like that was fuel. So I thought that's how they started out the game, but they just didn't have enough firepower for 11-0 team.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to San Angelo Live, those guys out there. They did some stuff with us at Friday Night Glory at halftime on the Facebook Live, and we wrapped up the game. They wanted to get a different perspective from someone not from San Angelo, so we did a couple of things with them, and Terrence and I talked to them at halftime. So shout out to those guys, and good season by the Bobcats.
That's awesome. That's good stuff to hear, man. That's good. That means Randy's dream is coming to become to a reality now.
Spreading the
wing. Spreading the wing. That's what I told him. I said, give us a little bit of time.
No, y'all guys did a good job on that, though. But I was seeing the tweets and everything, and I said that was good, man. I saw the 17-13 and thought my little San Angelo pick might be there. But when I came back later, woo.
And actually,
Bob had bit me too.
Okay, and now let's move on to Terrence's second game. Our state champ is gone. We'll be a new champ. We got DeSoto losing to Southlake 33-15. Terrence, talk about that.
Big game, man. Big game for the Dragons coming in, man. They had a total of 336 total yards. Duncanville had more yards, 371. But I'm going to tell you what probably really killed Duncanville. I mean, not Duncanville, I'm sorry. DeSoto. 11 penalties for 116 yards. Uncharacteristic. I don't know if it was the dome or the new dome, but one thing I do know, Will Bowers is accurate in the dome. When I seen Will Bowers throw the ball, I talked with Coach Hal Watson about that at the end. He was very on point. He went 8 for 12, 173 TDs. Our boy TJ McDaniel came in, 25 for 128, 1 TD. He also caught a screen pass and turned it into a touchdown. TJ was moving. The defense was crunk. RJ Mickens had a TD pass. Cade Bell caught 2 passes. He didn't score, but they had a key play at the end of the game that kind of sealed it when Preston Forney snuck out from the tight end spot. 3-yard touchdown pass over the middle. That's when I knew they was well coached up because neither team scored in the third quarter. It was 0-0. Started out 7-7. Southlake scored. It was 13-0 in the second quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, that's when Southlake put together 2 more scores, only to 8 of Duncanville of DeSoto. I keep saying Duncanville, but dethroned them boys. Remember, I told y'all earlier the key to that championship was Sean Robinson. It kind of showed their quarterback Courtney Douglas. He was pretty good, threw 35 times, only completed 23 of those passes, 213 yards, had an interception thrown. Southlake, I believe it was, I want to say Jacob Doddridge or Matty Warner caught an interception over the middle. It looked like game time NFL type stuff. Southlake had stepped up their defense. Be aware of the blonde guys. Be aware of them trying to add a 9th trophy to that trophy case to go along with being, the only school in Texas with all the titles.
I know, and we had that whole district swept out the playoffs this weekend. You get South out, you get Duncanville out, DeSoto out. That was one of the best. We thought one of the best districts in the state, but
very surprising.
Very surprising.
I got a question for you, Terrence. So, was it the DeSoto miscues that told the story that kind of kept them from capitalizing on what they wanted to do, or was it just total domination? Was Southlake just a better team overall? Even though I stated last week that I thought that DeSoto had more athletes on the team than I thought Southlake had, but it seems like to me that T.J. McDaniel, Will Bowers, and those guys came to play. And last question, talk about Jacob Doddridge, because I've been reading about him over the weekend that he really had a dominant performance.
That was the key. The defense of Southlake stepped up like I haven't seen them all season. Jacob was a tackling machine. I mean, DeSoto came out with the little stuff that they do, but every player on that defense crashed to the ball, locked down to the ball. And of course, the offense was moving. Will Bowers was pretty accurate, running and throwing. We know TJ McDaniel going to do his thing. It wasn't too much of the offense that I was surprised about, but I was surprised to see the defense come in there hitting the way they were. Turnovers, picked off a pass, just closing in on a 4th and 2, I believe. DeSoto went for it, and Matty Warner came up with a big hit. It was crunk. They just turned it on, and then Hal Watson kind of put together a complete package to finish them off. I mean, DeSoto, they was good. Their number one receiver was Levante Chenault. He had 14 catches for 115 yards. I mean, it just wasn't enough. Like I said, Sean Robinson was the reason they lost a couple of DBs. DBs had penalties for holding. I mean, they got away with some penalties. They kind of got away with a 4th down play that should have been a turnover. So they had a little leeway, but Southlake just turned it on.
Yeah, and state champ is out, so it's a whole new field. Southlake's looking good this year. Arlington Martin looking pretty good, but let's get our pick 6 on. I'm going to do Mark and Terrence at the same time.
Okay.
Carpel versus Cedar Ridge out of Round Rock.
I'm going to go with Carpel. Like I said, I haven't been wrong about Brady McBride and McGill and those boys yet. I think up to this point, this is where they got to last year. And I don't know if it was the same Round Rock team, but they did play a team in Waco last year after they beat Rockwall up in Allen. So I'm going to continue to roll with Carpel and Brady McBride.
Terrence.
I'm going to roll with Carpel and McBride as well. Those Cowboys have been flying all season, so I'm going to keep those Cowboys in their rolling.
Okay, Allen versus Martin.
I'm going to have to stick with Allen, man. I think that they know how to win. It's a really tough pick because I really do like Bob Wager and, Arlington Martin. But I just think let me ask one question. Where's this game being played at?
Southlake Carroll.
Okay, yeah. So it's really no advantage. It's not closer to Allen. It's not closer to Arlington. So, I was thinking, Martin, like I said last week, Martin had an advantage over Odessa Permian, being that they're right there in their backyard at UTA. But I think this is Allen's year as a team to take it. So I'll go with Allen.
I'm going to roll with Allen as well. Well coached, know how to turn it on, discipline, sound football. Taking nothing from Arlington Martin. They got a bunch of athletes in that backfield, but I just don't think it's enough power for them boys up in Allen.
They may have the best player in Texas in Trey Brown, too.
Yeah, Arlington Martin. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Hey, we're going to see Midlothian Heritage versus Kennedale.
This is a tough one for me because I did see Kennedale last year. When they had the Ohio State commit, he's playing linebacker up there, and they lost to Abilene Wild.
Brownie?
Yes, sir. Aaron Brownie. And Midlothian Heritage has some athletes over there, but you know what? I'm gonna stick with my gut here. I'm gonna go with Kennedale and that ground and pound offenses for the upset. It'll be close, 28-24.
I'm also go with Kennedale too. Haven't seen neither team play, but when it comes down to sports and football, I've been out to Kennedale. They may be one of my hoods too. They race out there. They got the drag strip. I'm gonna go with the boys with the fast cars.
That's right.
Waxahachie versus Lone Star.
Ooh, this one is tough for me too. You got John Kidner with that NFL experience that's really turned that program around and taken them to another level. Waxahachie has traditionally had athletes. I mean, you got Jalen Rager coming out of that last year, and even his dad, Monte Rager, was a star before he went on Texas Tech. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but I. So I mean, the Indians have a pedigree of history when it comes to playoff football, and Lone Star is just getting started. But I like Lone Star because they got that 1-2 punch in the backfield. So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Lone Star.
Coach Rayburn.
I like Lone Star's running back Kirby. I don't know when it comes to my hometown, born and raised in Waxahachie. Them Indians used to roll hard back in the day. I think I'm gonna go with more experienced John Kittner. May not have enough firepower, but I think they pull it out closely in the end.
All right, Waco Midway against Mansfield.
I hadn't been wrong yet. I know they got Tanner Mordecai over there. Explosive offense, the Waco Midway. But I'm going to go with the boys from Mansfield, the Tigers, Coach Mayberry, to continue this winning streak. I think they have a complete package on offense and defense. They look, and Terrence, he might agree, they look like a state title team just the way they're balanced on both sides of the ball. I mean, the only thing that I thought they had a little trouble with San Angelo's passing game at the beginning in the first half, until they kind of figured it out. They start they changed the coverage of the second half on Henry Teeter. They had a backer laying down in the flat, and then they had the safety over top in the corner playing the flats also. So they changed their coverage up. So you can tell they have good coaching. I'm gonna go with the Tigers and their coach went down to Waco.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Tigers too. Coach Mayberry got them boys playing sound football. Like Mark said, they made the right adjustments at the right time to stop that number one receiver, even though he's finished with 100+ yards. Mansfield's just too deep, man, at their position. I mean, they got backs on top of backs that can run that ball like men and real hard and then to you there. That's my hood, so I'm gonna roll with them.
Okay, I want y'all to just pay close attention to that game, and I want you to pay close attention to this Waco Midway team. Yes. They're about 6 deep at wide receiver and about 3 deep at running back. They're nice.
They got talent. They talented, but
I seen a depleted Cedar Hill team last year dismantle them boys just like they did Duncanville. So I'm gonna stick with Mansfield.
We're gonna see. Finally, Arlington High versus South Lake.
I'm gonna go with South Lake.
You ain't gotta ask me no.
You gotta ask me that one. I mean, I just think, hey, they've proven to me the last 2 weeks that they can play some ball. I was over there in the spring and got the chance to visit with those guys. I was impressed with Jacob Dodridge, and the cornerback Mickens is playing a little offense and defense. And yeah. And he's a class of 2020 prospect, and he's already got offers out the wazoo. So
Ray Mickens' son.
Ray Mickens, he's got cornerback in his blood, so he should be out there. I'm gonna go with the Dragons.
Okay, well, let's try to see. We got a chance to see 2 Arlington schools in the state in the finals. Looks like coming up with Arlington and Martin. So we're gonna see what's happening. Lauren, do what you do.
Which team is y'all's biggest surprise here? Which team is the area?
I'm gonna have to go with South Lake and Trinity because I didn't think that they were gonna take care of business like they did. I just thought that Trinity was too one-dimensional. But like I wanted to know earlier when Matt was speaking, because Trinity's been such a ground pound type of offense for a long time. But if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's just like the Naval Academy and the Air Force Academy and Georgia Tech with the triple option. If you don't stop it, they're gonna wear you down. And those big guys on that old line there, Trinity seem to wear DeSoto down, and then South Lake, that. These schools with the tradition, South Lake, the Allens, the Alito, etc., Lake Travis, those kids grow up worshiping those teams, and when they get their chance, that momentum that they have from the tradition, anything over these other teams.
Terrence.
Hey. I'm here. We got a live audience tonight. I like that Friday Night Glory. I'm kind of nervous.
Lauren asks, ask your question to Terrence again.
Which team is your biggest surprise in the area around?
Of something positive or negative?
Either
Both.
Duncanville. Everybody was riding that coattail. I mean, I even jumped on it a little bit in the end, but no personal vendetta against Coach Samples, but I'm football. I breed football. That's what we do. We analyze, not to be negative or hating on them, but when you see it, you see it. When you know you got it, you got it. That was the biggest surprise to me, because after they kept winning, I thought for sure they would go on. And Trinity, Trinity's always in everybody's hip pocket to play hardball. They was my biggest upset surprise, to see them fall. And I would probably say South Lake is the biggest plus. They knocked off the champs. They've been kind of a little shaky. They lost, they had Rockwall. They lost a couple games that I thought they should have won. They kind of turned it on in the end. So I say South Lake is my positive, and Duncanville kind of let me down. I thought they would finish.
Okay. Well, we're going to see Terrence this week. You're at Arlington and South Lake, and you're at Summit versus Holland Park watching Mr. Young Jerry. Mark, where you at? Tell the people where you're at this weekend.
I'm going to Stephenville.
You're out in Denton. You're out in Denton too this weekend?
Yeah, I'm coming to meet you Saturday.
Cool. Yeah, we got Denton Lion versus
Lubbock Monterey.
Lubbock Monterey this Saturday, 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Last but not least, Kenny Matthews. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, man.
I'm gonna have to peace out, you guys.
It's fun now. This is what we do all this stuff for.
Hey, we almost out of you. Almost out. You were at Capel versus Horn this weekend.
Man, you know what? It was first off, I want to say thank you for the football gods. They blessed us with a beautiful Friday afternoon with perfect weather, no wind, bright sunny sky at Allen Stadium, and I had a good game. I mean, I had, Capel gets the opening kick. They march it right down the field, score 7 against, Mesquite Horn. But then Mesquite Horn comes back and they have 7, they score, they come back with a TD from Givens to Caldwell, and I've got that on Twitter. Caldwell pulls his calf about the 20-yard line, but is able to limp into the end zone all the way through for the score. It was a great play. I mean, it really was. But the thing about it was Givens did everything that I thought he would do against Capel. They scored. They get up 17. But it's 14-7. Then Capel scores late to get it to where it was 17-14 at the time. But then Givens takes the team all the way down to go up 24-14. And both, I did it with Dan Jay at Friday Night Glory. We both looked at it and said, that was a big, huge momentum builder for them to go up 24-14 with no time left there at halftime. Thought the game probably was going to be Mesquite Horn. But the one thing was that Givens got hurt. And then one of the wide receivers got hurt for them, and that really neutralized him being able to scramble out of the backfield. That was the biggest difference in the second half for them. But the one thing was that Givens took the opening kick in the second half. They drive all the way down the field, but he had a big interception at the 1-yard line, which then at that point in time, Capel goes on a 99-yard drive at that point in time to make it 24-21. Then all of a sudden we knew we had a ball game. 3 and out. The Capel defense stops it up there. They punt. They bring it all the way down to the 4-yard line. The very next drive is 96 yards then at that point in time. You go 99 and 96 to get somebody in the playoffs, you're probably going to win that football game. And that's really was the turning point of the whole game then at that point in time. Again, we've said it before. We've loved McBride. We've been singing his praises here on FridayNightGlory.com, but he is the glue of that team. There is no question. I mean, you can have McGill and you can have Hurt running the football, but McBride just doesn't throw to the other team. He doesn't make mistakes. He kind of reminds me a lot of John Stephen Jones at Highland Park. He just makes plays when he has to make plays, and there's nothing that you can stop when it's just one person that just knows how to win, I should say. And obviously that's what happened.
He has a little Johnny football in him.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things where, I mean, you can have the perfect defense. You can have everything lined up right, but he scrambles out of the pocket and gets the first down. Third and long. Those are demoralizing plays, especially this late in the year, because you've logged enough plays already and your defense is out there and they say, well, hey, it's 3rd and 8. They think they're going to get off the field, but they don't. And that's what McBride does.
Okay. Lauren, would you ask Terrence, as Kenny, your question of the week?
Which team is your biggest surprise in the area round?
Well, you know I can't just give you one. You know that. I can't ever do that, can I? I mean, it's the biggest surprise for me is, and I'm going to take you guys back a little bit, six-man football, Bremen. They have 18-game winning streak in the playoffs. They got beat last week by Timpson. I mean, Randy and I did that game last year. They were loaded, had the best player probably in 6A that was there. He didn't play that game, obviously, but that is huge. I can't think of anybody right now that's having an 18-game winning streak in the playoffs that loses it. That's 3 state championships. That's huge. But them getting beat was huge. I was looking forward to seeing them again this year at the Star, but at Jerry's World. But now that's not going to happen. But the other one will be is Lake Travis. Lake Travis got slapped by Converse Judson in the first game of the year. And they came back in a revenge game and beat them back, coming from behind to beat them. That was my biggest surprise last week because I wasn't sure Lake Travis could beat Converse Johnson. And the only reason I say that about Converse Johnson is there's a new school opening up in San Antonio next year that's going to take away students from Judson. This may have been Judson's last year to make a deep run for a few years because they're not going to have all those players coming back to them anymore. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them forward. But that's my 2 biggest surprises.
Very, very. Now let's get on to your pick 6. Let's start with Arlington High versus Southlake.
Oh, this is easy for me. I doubted Southlake last week, and I knew I probably went against what I wanted to say. But no, I'm going to go with Southlake because I've been Blauer's maybe hardest critic around here, but he has been able to play the last 4 or 5 games. He's not throwing to the other team. He's not making mistakes. He's making plays in the passing game. And if you can do that with Tavian Gold and with McDaniel, you're going to win ball games. And that's what they're doing because R.J. Mickens is the X factor at the wide receiver spot for him.
Okay, Waco Midway versus Mansfield.
I'll have to go with Tanner. He's an OU guy. I have to go with Tanner. I mean, as much as we say that Tanner has got weapons. It's not just Tanner. He's got 6, 5, weapons in the offensive side. I think that will be the difference in that game. Not that I'm saying that they're much better, but Waco Midway seems like one of those teams that just seems like there's something different about them this year. You always pick one of those teams in the playoffs. I think Waco Midway is that team.
For sure. Capel versus Round Rock. Cedar Ridge.
Gosh, I picked against Coppell last week, and I knew I probably shouldn't have done that. And here I am, lighted up 6 days later, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go with Cedar Ridge on this one again. Cedar Ridge is 11-1, one of the toughest districts in Texas, in Austin, that they won. And they have dominated foes. They got wins over Pflugerville, Stony Point, Klein Oak, Round Rock. They're a good football team. There is nothing wrong with them. I'm still kind of leery about Coppell's defense, but it pains me. So the Coppell fans, I'm sorry. It pains me to say that I am picking against you this week, but I think Cedar Ridge wins by 3 or 4.
Okay, Waxahachie versus Lone Star.
This was easy for me. Coach Raven, Newman Smith grad. No, the guy that needs to be talked about a little bit for Player of the Week this year is Nick Bolton. 2 interceptions, middle linebacker, 2 interceptions, and 2 interception returns in the same game. Nobody's talking about that. That's huge. I mean, that's a 14-point swing that you don't get normally that you can count on. I think Rayburn, Rivers, Kirby, I think they all take care of business this week, and I love Coach Rayburn.
Okay. Well, make plays like that, and I promise I'll find you, whoever you are, still watching. Midlothian Heritage versus Kennedale.
I did a Midlothian game last year. I think Midlothian Heritage, Coach Wigginton's bunch is ready to play. That's a 2-year school, but they got 2 big-time difference makers in Carrion, and then also in Ledbetter. They can flat out play ball. I mean, they really can. They can score with anybody in the area. I think Heritage wins, and I don't even think it's one of those sweat out things. I think Heritage wins, and it's pretty resounding.
Okay, Arlington Martin versus Allen.
Oh, you know how I feel about Trey Brown. I think he's the best player in Texas right now. But Something just tells me that they're not going to win this week. I don't have anything that can pinpoint to say why on that. I think it stops. I love Coach Wagner, but I know that Sturgis, Weiss, Tisdale, somehow, some way, at the end of the game, it all takes care of itself. I think that Allen does win. I think the last week was a nice poking of the bear a little bit. It's a nice test. It's one of those games where you didn't have your best game, but you still won. I think they win.
Okay. And well, that's it for us. First off, let's start by saying we could have a completely new field. We have the tradition of Allen versus Southlake on one end, but we could see Martin and Arlington Martin playing together. You know, two teams you don't normally see in playoffs versus two who you normally do. You guys have any closing remarks for the people still watching our great show?
Well, I will say one thing about an FNG person, Roger Hamilton. He seems to be doing pretty good. He did some tests today, but it seems like we're okay with all that. He worked this weekend. So, Roger, we're still praying for him. We hope you do well. We got your back here at FridayNightGlory.com.
Shout out to Roger, man. Well, how was he doing this weekend?
He was doing good. I mean, you know, knock on wood, they took him out of the hospital the very next day and said, hey, we're not worried about anything. We just got to find out what it actually is. So as long as once we find out, we'll be able to do it that way. But nothing's life-threatening or anything that's too serious. So it seems to be pretty good. And he's in great spirits. So I just wanted to make sure that we all knew that we were praying for him.
Good. Shout out to Roger. Well, man.
Great. Shout out to Roger. Shout out the whole Friday Night Glory crew behind the camera and in front of it. I'm going to go for, we're the last survivors, so I'm going to go for Lauren Moore, Kenny Matthews, Mark Henry. This is Malik Wright. Everybody else left us, but we're all still here for your late night special. We're going to come out a few days early this time, get you first a preview so you get your Friday Night Glory Out of Bounds podcast before this Friday. But for the rest of the crew, signing off. Go see a high school football game this weekend.
All right. Keep out.
Hey, big thanks
Keep
to
doing
you
good
guys.
work, everybody. Y'all did good last weekend.
Yeah, we did numbers.
Good numbers last weekend. That's huge. Congratulations to everybody for the hard work.
Oh, yeah, man. Good job, man.
All right, brother. Take care, man. See you soon.
Oh, yeah.
See you next week.
See y'all next week.